Have you ever felt like someone was watching you at night? Now imagine that someone isn't a person at all. It's that old doll sitting on your shelf, the one with glass eyes that seem to follow you around the room, the one your grandmother gave you years ago, the one that you swear just moved its head when you weren't looking. What if I told you that right now? As you're watching this video, there are people out there living with dolls that do more than just sit still. Dolls that walk at night. Dolls that whisper names. Dolls that have ruined entire families. These aren't made-up stories from Hollywood movies. These are real experiences from real people who wish they had never brought these cursed toys into their homes. Story 1. The Doll That Wouldn't Stay Buried. Sarah Miller was just 8 years old when she found the doll. It was a cold October morning in 2019 in a small town in Ohio. Sarah was playing in her backyard, digging in the dirt near the old oak tree. Her small hands hit something hard, something that wasn't a rock or a root. She brushed away the dirt and saw a pale porcelain face staring back at her. The doll was old. Really old. Its dress was torn and stained with dirt. One eye was cracked. The other eye was perfect, bright blue, almost too bright. The hair was matted and gray. Any normal child would have screamed and run away, but Sarah felt sorry for it. She picked it up and ran inside to show her mother. "Mom, look what I found. Can I keep her, please?" Sarah begged. Her mother, Jennifer, felt something cold run down her spine when she saw the doll. She couldn't explain it. It was just a feeling, a very bad feeling. The doll's one good eye seemed to look right through her. But Sarah was already in love with it. She was hugging it tight, getting dirt all over her clothes. "Honey, that doll is very dirty and old. Maybe we should throw it away and get you a new one from the store," Jennifer said. But Sarah started crying. She held the doll tighter. "No, she needs me. She's been alone in the ground for so long. Please, Mom." Jennifer wanted to say no. Every part of her body was screaming to take that doll and throw it in the trash. But she looked at her daughter's face, saw those big tears, and gave in. "Okay, but we need to clean it first." They washed the doll in the sink. The water turned black. Jennifer scrubbed and scrubbed, but the stains wouldn't come off completely. The cracked eye couldn't be fixed, but Sarah didn't care. She named the doll Emily and carried it everywhere. The first night was when things started to go wrong. Jennifer woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Small footsteps, like a child walking. She got up to check on Sarah, thinking she was sleepwalking. But when she opened Sarah's door, her daughter was fast asleep in bed. And the doll was sitting on the floor in the middle of the room. That's strange, Jennifer thought. Sarah always sleeps with that doll. She picked up Emily and put her back on the bed next to Sarah. The doll's good eye seemed to shine in the darkness. Jennifer hurried back to her room, telling herself she was being silly. The next night, the same thing happened. Footsteps at 3 a.m., the doll on the floor. But this time, the doll was facing the door, like it was trying to leave. On the third night, Jennifer didn't wait for the footsteps. She stayed awake, sitting in the living room, watching the hallway. At exactly 3 a.m., she heard Sarah's door creak open. Her heart started pounding. She stood up, ready to catch whatever was happening. Then she saw it. The doll was standing in the doorway, standing on its own. Its head turned slowly toward Jennifer. The good eye blinked. Jennifer screamed. She ran to Sarah's room and grabbed her daughter. Sarah woke up confused and scared. "Mom, what's wrong?" "We're leaving. Right now," Jennifer said. They spent the night in a hotel. The next morning, Jennifer went back to the house alone. The doll was sitting on the kitchen table. Jennifer knew she hadn't put it there. She grabbed it, drove to the local dump, and threw it as far as she could into the piles of garbage. That should have been the end, but it wasn't. 3 days later, Sarah was playing in her room when Jennifer heard her talking to someone. She went to check and froze in the doorway. Sarah was having a tea party with Emily. The doll was back, clean. The cracked eye was somehow fixed. Both eyes now stared at Jennifer with what looked like anger. "Sarah? Where did you get that?" Jennifer whispered. Emily came back. She was waiting for me on my bed when I got home from school. "Isn't that great, Mom? She missed me." Jennifer grabbed the doll, ignoring Sarah's cries. This time she drove 50 miles away. She found an old abandoned barn and threw the doll inside. She even set the barn on fire, watching it burn to make sure the doll was gone. But when she got home, Emily was sitting on their porch. Not a single burn mark on her. That's when Jennifer called her mother, Helen, who lived 2 states away. Helen listened to the whole story. Then she said something that made Jennifer's blood run cold. "Jenny, when I was young, my sister found a doll buried in our backyard. It looked exactly like what you're describing. Strange things happened. My sister got very sick. She said the doll would talk to her at night, tell her to do bad things. My parents buried that doll deep in the ground before we moved away. We moved to Ohio, to the house you live in now." Jennifer hung up the phone. She looked at Sarah, who was playing with Emily, brushing her hair, singing softly. But then she noticed something. Sarah wasn't singing in English. She was singing in some other language, a language Jennifer had never heard before. "Sarah, what are you singing?" Sarah looked up with blank eyes. "Emily taught me. She says it's a special song. She says if I sing it enough, her friends will come too. They're all buried in the backyard. They're all waiting." Jennifer grabbed Sarah and Emily. She put them both in the car. But instead of running away, she drove to the local church. Father Martinez was an old priest who had seen many things in his 70 years of life. When Jennifer told him the story, he didn't laugh. He didn't say she was crazy. "Leave the doll with me," he said, "and never come back for it." Jennifer agreed. She had to literally pull Sarah away, who was screaming and crying for Emily. They moved out of the house that same week. They never went back. But Father Martinez later told Jennifer something that still gives her nightmares. He said when he tried to burn the doll with holy water, it laughed. He said he locked it in a blessed box in the church basement. And every night at 3 a.m. he can hear scratching from inside the box. And sometimes, just sometimes, he hears a little girl's voice saying, "I want to go home. Sarah needs me. Sarah promised to help me find my friends. The box is still there. Still locked. Still scratching." Story 2. The Antique Shop's Secret. Marcus Walsh loved antique shops. Every weekend he would drive around Michigan looking for hidden treasures. He was a collector, and his apartment was full of old things. Old books, old paintings, old furniture, but he had never collected dolls. Not until that day in November 2020. The shop was called Memories of Yesterday. It was in a small town he had never visited before. The moment Marcus walked in, he felt like he had stepped back in time. Dust floated in the beams of sunlight. The smell of old wood and forgotten memories filled the air. In the back corner, behind a stack of moldy books, Marcus saw it. A male doll, dressed like a sailor from the 1940s. It was about 2 feet tall, with painted features and real human hair. Yes, human hair. Marcus could tell because of how it felt when he touched it. The doll's face was perfect. Too perfect. The paint hadn't chipped or faded at all, even though everything around it was falling apart. "How much for this?" Marcus asked the shop owner, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen. Mrs. Chen's face went pale when she saw what he was holding. "That's not for sale." "Everything in an antique shop is for sale," Marcus laughed. "Come on, name your price. Young man, put that down and leave. Now." But Marcus was already in love with the doll. It was unique, special. He had to have it. "I'll give you $500. Mrs. Chen shook her head. "That doll has been in my shop for 40 years. It was here when I bought this place. The previous owner warned me never to sell it, never to move it, never to even touch it." "Then why keep it?" Marcus asked. "Because every time I try to throw it away, something bad happens. My husband tried once. He had a heart attack that same day. My son tried. He got into a car accident. That doll wants to stay here, and I've learned to leave it alone." Marcus thought she was just a superstitious old woman trying to drive up the price. $1,000. Final offer. Mrs. Chen looked at the money. She needed it. The shop wasn't doing well. She hadn't had a customer in weeks. "If I sell it to you, you can never bring it back. Do you understand?" "Never." "Deal," Marcus said. He took the doll home, proud of his new find. He put it on a shelf in his living room, between an old clock and a brass telescope. That night, he invited his girlfriend Amy over to see his new purchase. "It's creepy," Amy said immediately. "Why would you want that thing?" "It's a piece of history. Look at the craftsmanship, the details. Someone put a lot of love into making this." Amy shivered. "Or a lot of something else." "Mark, I don't like it. Its eyes follow me when I move." Marcus laughed. "All dolls' eyes do that. It's how they're painted. But that night, after Amy left, Marcus noticed something strange. The doll had moved. Just slightly. Its head was turned more to the left than before. Marcus figured he must have bumped the shelf. At midnight, he woke up to the sound of footsteps in his living room. Heavy footsteps, like a man walking. Marcus grabbed a baseball bat and crept out of his bedroom. The living room was empty, but the doll was now on a different shelf. The shelf on the opposite side of the room. Marcus stood there, bat in hand, trying to make sense of it. There was no way someone broke in just to move a doll. He must be dreaming. He pinched himself. He wasn't dreaming. He put the doll back on its original shelf and went back to bed. But he couldn't sleep. He kept listening, waiting. At 3 a.m., he heard it again. Footsteps. This time he ran out immediately. The doll was standing on the floor. Standing. On its own 2 feet. Its painted eyes were looking right at Marcus. Then it spoke. "My name is William. I died on this day in 1943. My ship sank. Everyone drowned. But I stayed. I stayed in this doll, and now you've brought me home." Marcus dropped the bat. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. The doll continued, its mouth not moving, but the voice clear as day. "I've been waiting so long. Waiting for someone to take me away from that shop, away from her protection. Now I'm free, and you're going to help me." "Help you do what?" Marcus managed to whisper. "Find the others. My crew. They're out there, in other dolls, in other places. We need to be together again. And if you don't help me, I'll make sure you join us." One way or another, Marcus ran. He ran out of his apartment, not even putting on shoes. He drove to Amy's house and banged on her door until she let him in. He told her everything. She didn't believe him at first. Not until they went back to his apartment together the next morning. The doll was sitting at Marcus's computer. The screen was on. There were dozens of browser tabs open. All of them were listings for antique dolls, military dolls, sailor dolls. And there was a Word document open with a list of addresses. "It's been shopping," Amy whispered. "They tried to throw the doll away. It came back. They tried to burn it. The fire wouldn't touch it. They tried to smash it with a hammer. The hammer broke." Finally, Marcus did the only thing he could think of. He drove back to Mrs. Chen's shop, but the shop was closed. There was a sign on the door. "Owner deceased." Marcus asked around. Mrs. Chen had died the night he bought the doll. Heart attack. In her hand, they found a note that said just 3 words. "I'm sorry, William. Marcus still has the doll. He can't get rid of it." Every night, William walks around his apartment. Every morning, there are new doll listings bookmarked on his computer. And slowly, Marcus has started buying them. He doesn't want to. But when he doesn't, things happen. His car breaks down. He gets sick. Accidents happen. As of today, Marcus has 17 dolls in his apartment. All of them military dolls from the 1940s. All of them with human hair. All of them move at night. And sometimes, when the moon is full, Marcus can hear them talking to each other. Planning something. Waiting for something. William says they need 23. That was the full crew. Once they have 23, they can finally rest. Or so William claims. But Marcus doesn't believe him anymore. Because last week, William said something that chilled Marcus to the bone. "When we have the full crew, we'll need a new ship. And you, Marcus, you'll make a fine captain. Whether you're alive or dead when we sail, well, that's up to you." Story 3. The Family Heirloom. The Blackwood family had owned the doll for 5 generations. They called her Grandmother Charlotte, though no one remembered why. She sat in a glass case in the parlor of their old Victorian house in Salem, Massachusetts. Every Blackwood child grew up being told the same rules. Never touch Grandmother Charlotte. Never open her case. Never, ever take her out. But rules are made to be broken, especially by teenagers who don't believe in family superstitions. It was December 2021. 16-year-old Jessica Blackwood was home alone. Her parents had gone to a Christmas party. Her younger brother, Tommy, was at a friend's house. Jessica had invited her boyfriend, Derek, over. They were watching horror movies, laughing at how fake everything looked. "Your house is scarier than any of these movies," Derek said, looking around at the old portraits and antique furniture. "What's with the creepy doll in the case?" "That's Grandmother Charlotte. She's been in our family forever. We're not supposed to touch her." Derek walked over to the case. The doll was beautiful, in an old-fashioned way. She wore a black silk dress with real pearl buttons. Her hair was auburn, pinned up in an elaborate style. Her skin was so pale it almost glowed. And her eyes were green glass that seemed to have depth, like you could fall into them. Why can't you touch her? Is she worth a lot of money? Jessica shrugged. My dad says she's cursed. Every time someone in our family has taken her out of the case, someone dies. Derek laughed. You don't actually believe that, do you? No, Jessica said, but she didn't sound sure. It's just, there are stories. My great-aunt took her out in 1962 to clean her. She died that same night. Heart attack. My grandfather's brother took her out in 1985 to show her to an antique dealer. Car crash on the way home. Coincidences, Derek said. He was already opening the case. Derek, don't. Jessica grabbed his arm. Come on, Jess, it's just a doll. I'll prove it to you. He reached in and picked up Grandmother Charlotte. The moment his hands touched the doll, all the lights in the house went out. Jessica screamed. Derek dropped the doll, and they heard her hit the floor with a sound that was too heavy for something made of porcelain and cloth. It sounded like a body falling. The lights came back on. The doll was lying on the floor, but she wasn't broken. Not a crack. Not a chip. But her eyes were open wider than before. And her mouth? Jessica could swear her mouth was curved into a smile that wasn't there before. Put her back, Jessica whispered. Derek picked up the doll, trying to act brave, but his hands were shaking. He put her back in the case and closed the door. They both stood there, staring at Grandmother Charlotte. She looked exactly the same as before, except now she was facing them directly. Before, she had been angled toward the wall. We should go to my house, Derek said. They left immediately, but as they were walking out the door, Jessica looked back. Through the parlor doorway, she could see the glass case. It was empty. She ran back. The case was still closed, still locked, but Grandmother Charlotte was gone. Derek, Jessica called, but he was already at his car. She searched the parlor, looked behind furniture, checked every corner. No doll. Then she heard footsteps upstairs. In her room, Jessica knew she should run. Every instinct told her to get out of the house. But something pulled her up the stairs. She had to know. She had to see. Her bedroom door was open. Grandmother Charlotte was sitting on her bed, propped up against the pillows like she belonged there. Like she had always been there. Jessica's phone rang. It was her mother. Jessica, you need to come to the hospital. Now. Tommy's been in an accident. The room started spinning. Jessica grabbed the wall to steady herself. What? How? He was at Josh's house. They were playing in the yard. Tommy fell from the treehouse. He's in critical condition. Please, honey, get here now. Jessica ran. She didn't even look at the doll. Derek drove her to the hospital, running red lights, not saying a word. They both knew. They both understood. The family curse was real, and they had triggered it. Tommy was in surgery for 6 hours. The doctor said he had bleeding in his brain. They didn't know if he would make it. Jessica's parents were destroyed. They kept asking how this could happen. Josh's mother said Tommy had been acting strange before he fell. He kept saying he saw a lady in a black dress in the tree. He was reaching for her when he lost his balance. Jessica knew what she had to do. She left the hospital and went home alone. The house was dark and cold. She could feel Grandmother Charlotte watching her, even though she couldn't see her. Please, Jessica said to the empty house. Please don't take Tommy, take me instead. I'm the one who let Derek touch you. It's my fault, she heard a laugh, soft like silk rubbing against silk. Then a voice, old and refined, with an accent from another time. Silly child. I don't want you. I don't want any of you. I want to be free. Jessica turned around. Grandmother Charlotte was standing in the doorway. Actually standing, moving. Her porcelain face was animated, alive. Her green eyes blinked. You're not a doll, Jessica whispered. I was never a doll. I am Charlotte Blackwood, your ancestor, your real grandmother's grandmother's grandmother. I made a deal, you see, a deal for eternal life. But there was a catch. There always is. I would live forever, but only as long as my family line continued, and only as long as I stayed in that case, in this house, protected and untouched. Charlotte stepped closer. Her dress rustled. Her feet made no sound on the floor. Every generation, someone gets curious. Someone breaks the rules. And every time I have to punish them, it's part of the deal. Part of the curse. If I don't, I die. Really die. And I've been alive for so long, I've forgotten what it's like to be mortal. So Tommy will live. This time. But only if you promise something. Anything, Jessica said. Charlotte smiled, and it was terrifying. You will be my keeper now. You will tell your children, and they will tell theirs. The rules must never be broken again. And if they are, the next time I won't be so merciful. She walked back to the parlor. Jessica followed. Charlotte climbed back into the case and became still. Just a doll again. But now Jessica knew the truth. Tommy recovered. It was called a miracle by the doctors. But Jessica knew it wasn't a miracle. It was a deal. A continuation of the curse that had plagued her family for generations. She never told anyone what really happened that night. Not Derek, not her parents, not Tommy. But she did something else. She installed cameras in the parlor. Motion-activated cameras that recorded 24 hours a day. What she found on those recordings made her wish she had never looked. Every night, at exactly 3:33 a.m., Grandmother Charlotte moves. Just little movements, a finger twitch, an eye blink, a slight turn of the head, and sometimes, just sometimes, the camera catches her mouth moving, forming words. Jessica had the audio enhanced. The words are always the same. 5 generations down. 5 more to go. Then I'm free. Then you'll all see what I really am. The Blackwood family still owns Grandmother Charlotte. She still sits in her case. And Jessica, now 20, still lives in that house. She can't leave. She's the keeper now, the guardian of a secret that's too terrible to share and too dangerous to forget. And every night she checks the cameras. Every night she watches Grandmother Charlotte. And every night she wonders what will happen when those 5 generations are up. What will Charlotte become when she's finally free? She's started having dreams. Dreams where Charlotte shows her things. The original deal. The man with yellow eyes who offered eternal life. The price that wasn't just Charlotte's to pay, but her entire bloodline's. And worst of all, what Charlotte really looks like under the porcelain shell. In the dreams, Charlotte isn't beautiful. In the dreams, Charlotte is something else entirely. Something that should have died 200 years ago. Something that feeds on fear and family bonds. Something that's waiting. Always waiting. Story 4. The Doll from the Yard Sale. Let me tell you about Marcus and his biggest mistake. A mistake that cost him everything he loved. It was a sunny Saturday morning in Ohio, when Marcus went to a yard sale with his girlfriend Emma. They were looking for old furniture for their new apartment. Nothing special, just a normal day, or so they thought. At the corner of the yard, covered in dust and spider webs, sat an old wooden doll. It was about 2 feet tall. The doll had real human hair, black and silky, but the hair looked fresh, too fresh for such an old doll. The wooden face was painted white with red lips and blue eyes. One eye was slightly bigger than the other. It gave the doll a crazy look, like it was always watching you. The old woman running the yard sale saw Marcus looking at the doll. She walked over quickly. Too quickly. "That's not for sale," she said. Her voice was shaking. Marcus noticed her hands were shaking too. "Please, just leave it alone." But Emma loved old things. She picked up the doll before the woman could stop her. "How much?" Emma asked with a big smile. The woman's face went white. Completely white, like she had seen a ghost. No. That doll belonged to my sister. She died last month. Strange things happened when she had it. Please put it down." Emma thought the woman was just being silly. Old people and their stories, right? She offered $50. The woman kept saying no. Emma offered $100, then $200. Finally, the woman gave up. She took the money with tears in her eyes. "Don't say I didn't warn you," she whispered. "Keep it away from children. And never, ever leave it near your bed at night." Marcus and Emma laughed about it in the car. They thought the old woman was crazy, just trying to get more money with a scary story. How wrong they were. How terribly wrong. That first night, Emma put the doll on a shelf in their living room. They went to bed around 11. At exactly 3 a.m, Marcus woke up. He heard footsteps. Small footsteps, like a child walking. But they lived alone. No kids, no pets. He shook Emma awake. Did you hear that? But the sound had stopped. The next morning, the doll was on the kitchen counter. Emma swore she left it on the shelf. Marcus thought she was playing a joke. But Emma's face was serious. Dead serious. They put the doll back on the shelf and went to work. When they came home, every cabinet in the kitchen was open. Every single one. And the doll? It was sitting at their dining table, in Marcus's chair, with a knife in its wooden hand. A real kitchen knife. Emma screamed. Marcus grabbed the doll and threw it in a box in the garage. He locked the garage door. But locking doors doesn't stop evil. That night they heard scratching. Scratching from inside the walls. It started in the garage and moved up through the walls, getting closer to their bedroom. Emma was crying. Marcus held her tight. The scratching stopped right outside their door. Then they heard it. A child's voice, singing. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies. But the voice was wrong. Too old, too evil, like an old woman pretending to be a child. The doorknob started turning, slowly, back and forth. Back and forth. Marcus had locked it, but the lock clicked open by itself. The door opened. Just a crack. They saw one blue eye looking at them. The doll's eye, but it was moving, blinking, watching. Emma screamed so loud the neighbors called the police. When the cops arrived, the doll was back in the garage, in the box. Like nothing happened. The police thought they were crazy, maybe on drugs. But Marcus and Emma knew the truth. They tried to throw the doll away, put it in the trash. The next morning it was back on their doorstep. They tried burning it. The fire went out every time they got close to the doll. They even drove 50 miles away and left it in a forest. It was waiting for them when they got home, sitting on their bed. Emma couldn't take it anymore. She moved back to her parents' house. But the doll followed her. Her parents found her 3 days later, dead in her childhood bedroom. The doll was sitting on her chest. The police said it was a heart attack. She was only 25 years old. Too young for a heart attack. But fear can kill you. Real fear can stop your heart. Marcus went crazy after Emma died. He tried to tell people about the doll. Nobody believed him. He ended up in a mental hospital. The doctors said he had a breakdown. But I know the truth. Because I was the nurse at that hospital. And one night, I saw the doll outside his window, standing in the rain, waiting. Marcus died 2 weeks later. They found him in his room. His face was frozen in terror, his eyes wide open, and carved into his arm were 2 words. She's mine. The doll disappeared that night. Nobody knows where it went, but last week, I saw something on Facebook, a yard sale in Texas, and in one of the pictures in the background was a wooden doll with black hair and blue eyes, one eye slightly bigger than the other. The post said, "Free to good home." Previous owner didn't want it anymore. I tried to warn them. I commented on the post. I called them. But it was too late. The doll was already gone. Someone took it. Someone who doesn't know what they brought into their home. Maybe it's in your town now. Maybe someone you know bought an old doll recently. Maybe you should ask them where they got it from. Story 5. The Doll Maker's Last Creation. This story will make you never trust another toy maker again. It happened in a small town in Maine. The year was 2019. Not that long ago. Close enough that you might remember seeing it on the news. But they never told you the whole truth. They never told you about the dolls. Patricia Kim was a single mother. She had a 7-year-old daughter named Lucy. They had just moved to this small town for a fresh start after Patricia's divorce. The town seemed perfect. Quiet streets, good schools, friendly neighbors. And on Main Street there was a toy shop. An old toy shop run by an old man named Mr. Theodore. Mr. Theodore had been making dolls for 60 years. Everyone in town loved him. He gave free toys to poor kids. He fixed broken dolls for free. He seemed like the nicest old man in the world, but nice people can hide the darkest secrets. Lucy fell in love with Mr. Theodore's shop. She would press her nose against the window every day after school, looking at all the beautiful dolls. Each one was handmade. Each one was unique, but there was one doll Lucy wanted more than anything. It was in the back of the shop, on the highest shelf, a porcelain doll with golden hair and green eyes. Just like Lucy's eyes. "That one's not for sale," Mr. Theodore always said. "That's a special doll. I made her for someone very special, someone who's not here anymore." His eyes would get sad when he said this. Sometimes Patricia thought she saw him crying when he looked at that doll. But Lucy wouldn't give up. Every day she asked about the doll. Every day Mr. Theodore said no. Until one day in December. It was almost Christmas. Snow was falling outside. Lucy was in the shop again, looking up at the doll. Mr. Theodore watched her for a long time. Then he said something strange. "You know what? You remind me of someone. Someone I knew long ago. Maybe it's time. Maybe you're the one who's supposed to have her." He climbed up on a ladder, his old bones creaking. He brought down the doll. Up close, it was even more beautiful. The porcelain skin looked real. Too real, like actual skin. The hair felt like real hair. And the eyes seemed to follow you. "Her name is Annabelle," Mr. Theodore said. "Take good care of her. And remember, she's very special. She doesn't like to be alone." He wouldn't take any money. It was a gift, he said. A Christmas gift. Patricia felt weird about it. Something felt wrong. But Lucy was so happy. How could she say no? That first night, Lucy slept with Annabelle in her bed. Patricia heard her talking to someone. She thought Lucy was just playing. Kids talk to their dolls, right? But at midnight, Patricia woke up. She heard two voices coming from Lucy's room. Two different voices. She ran to check. Lucy was asleep. But the doll was sitting up. Patricia was sure Lucy had laid it down flat. The next day, Lucy didn't want to go to school. "Annabelle says I should stay home," she said. "Annabelle says school is dangerous today." Patricia laughed it off. Kids and their imagination. She made Lucy go to school anyway. But that afternoon, Patricia got a call. There had been an accident. The school bus Lucy usually took had crashed. 3 kids were hurt, but Lucy wasn't on that bus. She had stayed late at school for no reason. When Patricia asked her why, Lucy said, "Annabelle told me to wait. She said the bus wasn't safe." Patricia's blood ran cold. How could a doll know about a bus crash before it happened? She tried to talk to Lucy about it, but Lucy got angry. Really angry. "Annabelle is my friend. She protects me. She loves me." Lucy had never yelled at her mother before. Never. Things got worse. Lucy stopped eating. She said Annabelle didn't like the food. Lucy stopped playing with other kids. She said Annabelle got jealous. Lucy stopped sleeping in her own bed. She said Annabelle was scared of the dark and needed Lucy to hold her all night. Patricia tried to take the doll away. Big mistake. Lucy screamed for 3 hours straight. The windows in her room cracked from her screaming. The neighbors called the police. When Patricia tried to touch the doll, she felt a shock. Like electricity, but cold, ice cold. And she heard something. A whisper. "She's mine now." Patricia went to see Mr. Theodore. The shop was closed. She banged on the door until he opened it. His face went white when she told him what was happening. "Oh no," he said. "Oh no. I thought enough time had passed. I thought it would be okay now." Then he told Patricia the truth, the horrible truth. Annabelle wasn't just a doll. 50 years ago, Mr. Theodore had a daughter. Her name was Annabelle. She died when she was 7, the same age as Lucy. She died in a fire in the toy shop. Mr. Theodore couldn't save her. He went crazy with grief. He spent a year making a perfect doll, a doll that looked exactly like his daughter. And on the anniversary of her death, something impossible happened. The doll moved. It spoke. It had Annabelle's memories. "I thought I brought her back," Mr. Theodore cried. "But I didn't. I brought something else back. Something that wore my daughter's face. Something that wanted to be alive again. Really alive. And the only way it could do that was to find another child. To take over another child." Patricia ran home. Lucy was in her room. But she wasn't Lucy anymore. Her eyes had changed color. They were blue now, like the doll's eyes. She spoke differently. Older, like an adult trying to sound like a child. "Hello, Mommy," Lucy said. But it wasn't Lucy's voice. "I'm home now. I'm finally home." Patricia grabbed Lucy and ran. She left everything behind. They drove all night, but when they stopped at a motel, the doll was in the car, in the back seat. Smiling. Always smiling. They couldn't escape it. Wherever they went, Annabelle followed. Patricia tried everything. Priests, psychics, even a guy who claimed he could destroy haunted objects. Nothing worked. The doll always came back, and Lucy was disappearing. Day by day, she became more like Annabelle. She knew things only Annabelle would know. She talked about the 1970s like she had lived through them. She called Mr. Theodore Daddy. The last time anyone saw Patricia and Lucy was at a gas station in Nevada. The cashier said the little girl was carrying a doll that looked exactly like her. Same face, same hair, same clothes, but which one was the doll? He couldn't tell. They looked exactly the same. The police found Patricia's car a week later. Abandoned in the desert. Patricia was inside. Dead. No signs of violence. She just died. Her hair had turned completely white, but Lucy was gone. The doll was gone too. Or maybe Lucy was the doll now. Maybe Annabelle finally got what she wanted. A real body. A real life. Mr. Theodore closed his shop after that. He burned all his dolls, all except one. Last month he died in his sleep. They found him holding a new doll. A doll that looked exactly like Patricia. And on his desk was a note. She's coming for me. She wants her daddy back. If you find this, burn everything. Don't let her take anyone else. But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night. Last week, a woman and a little girl moved into a house 3 streets away from me. The girl carries a porcelain doll everywhere, and sometimes, when I pass their house, I see 2 girls in the window. But the woman only has 1 daughter. At least that's what she thinks. Story 6. The Inheritance. Some gifts should never be accepted. Some inheritances should be refused. But Thomas Hart didn't know that when his grandmother died and left him everything she owned, including her collection of antique dolls. 17 dolls from around the world, each one over 100 years old, each one with its own terrible story. Thomas never liked his grandmother. Nobody did. She lived alone in a huge house in Vermont. She never had visitors. She never left the house. The grocery boy would leave food on her porch and run away. Even the mailman was scared of her. They said she talked to herself. But Thomas knew better now. She wasn't talking to herself. She was talking to them. The dolls. When the lawyer called about the inheritance, Thomas was shocked. He hadn't seen his grandmother in 20 years. Why would she leave him everything? The lawyer didn't know. He just said Thomas needed to come to Vermont immediately. The house had to be claimed within 7 days, or it would be donated to the state. Thomas drove up there with his wife Sarah and their teenage son Jake. They thought they'd won the lottery. The house was worth at least $2 million. They could sell it and be rich, finally pay off their debts, send Jake to a good college, start a new life. If only they had known what was waiting for them in that house. The house was massive. 3 floors, 15 bedrooms. It looked like something from a horror movie. Paint peeling off the walls, windows covered in dirt, the yard overgrown with dead plants. But Thomas didn't care. All he saw were dollar signs. They went inside. The smell hit them first, like something had died. Many things had died, but under that smell was something else. Something sweet, like old perfume, too much perfume. Sarah wanted to leave right away, but Thomas insisted they at least look around. The living room was full of dolls. They sat on every surface. Chairs, tables, shelves, the floor. 17 dolls in total, each one different. A Japanese doll in a silk kimono, a German doll with blonde braids, a Russian doll with a fur coat, an African doll with beaded jewelry, and more. So many more. All staring at the door, like they were waiting for someone. Jake thought they were cool. He picked up the German doll. The moment he touched it, he dropped it. "It's warm," he said. Like body temperature warm. Thomas felt one. Jake was right. They were all warm. How was that possible? The house had no heating. It was the middle of winter. Everything should be cold. They found a letter on the mantel. From grandmother. It said, "Thomas, you were always the strongest one in the family. That's why I'm leaving you this burden. These dolls cannot be separated. They cannot be sold. They cannot be destroyed. You must keep them together. You must take care of them. Feed them on the full moon. Never let them see their reflection. And most importantly, never let them know you're afraid. They can smell fear. If you fail, they will take everyone you love, just like they took everyone I loved. I'm sorry, but someone has to be their keeper. And now that someone is you." Thomas laughed. His grandmother had gone completely insane. Feed dolls? Don't let them see mirrors? It was ridiculous. He decided they would stay the night and call an antique dealer in the morning. These dolls were probably worth thousands each, maybe hundreds of thousands. They picked bedrooms on the 2nd floor, far away from the doll room. But when Thomas woke up at 3 in the morning, something was wrong. Very wrong. There was breathing. Heavy breathing. right next to his ear. He turned on the light. The Japanese doll was on his pillow, inches from his face. Its mouth was open. Had it always been open? He yelled. Sarah woke up screaming, because the Russian doll was on her pillow too. They ran to Jake's room. He was surrounded. All 17 dolls were on his bed, sitting in a circle around him. Jake was awake but couldn't move. "They've been here for an hour," he whispered, watching me. "I can't move. Help me." Thomas grabbed Jake and they ran downstairs. They tried to leave, but the door wouldn't open. The windows wouldn't break. They were trapped. The dolls were back in the living room when they returned, sitting exactly where they had been before, like nothing happened. Sarah found more of grandmother's notes in the kitchen. Pages and pages. The dolls weren't just dolls. They were prisons. Each one contained something evil, something that had been trapped by different cultures throughout history. Grandmother's family had been the keepers for generations, passing down the responsibility. The curse. The notes explained the rules. So many rules. The dolls had to be fed human blood on every full moon, just a drop from the keeper. They couldn't see mirrors because they would remember they weren't human. They couldn't be separated because together they kept each other weak. Apart, they would become strong. And if the keeper showed fear, they would know they had power. And they would use it. Thomas didn't believe it. Until the full moon came 3 days later. The dolls started moving on their own, walking around the house, looking for food. Thomas tried to run, but they followed, their little feet clicking on the wooden floors. Click, click, click. Getting closer. Sarah cut her finger. Let a drop of blood fall on each doll. They stopped moving instantly, went back to being just dolls, but Thomas saw their mouths. They were red, wet with blood, and they were smiling. They tried everything to escape, called the police, but the phone didn't work when they tried to ask for help. Called a priest. He took one look at the house and ran away. Called the lawyer. He said the inheritance was final. No returns. Weeks passed. The dolls got bolder. They would move things, break things, whisper at night. Jake started talking to them. He said they told him stories. Stories about all the people they had killed, all the keepers who had failed. His favorite was the African doll. He named her Mary. Mary told him secrets, taught him things. Dark things. Sarah got sick, really sick. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. She was aging rapidly. Her hair turned gray. Her skin wrinkled. She looked 70 years old, but she was only 40. Thomas found one of the dolls in her bed every morning, a different one each time. They were feeding on her, taking her life force. Jake changed too. He stopped eating normal food. He only wanted raw meat. His teeth seemed sharper. His nails grew long and wouldn't cut. He spent all his time with the dolls, talking to them, laughing at jokes only he could hear. His eyes changed color, different every day, like he was becoming all of them. Thomas found the truth in grandmother's final diary. The dolls weren't prisons. They were parasites. They needed a family to feed on. They would take the mother first, then the child. The father would be left alone, to find a new family, to bring new food. That's what happened to grandmother. They took her husband, her children, everyone except her. She was the keeper, the provider. The slave Sarah died on Christmas Eve. She just stopped breathing. The dolls were around her bed, all 17, watching, waiting. Jake didn't cry. He said, "Mary says Mom is with them now. Inside them. She's happier there." His voice wasn't his anymore. It was older. Multiple voices speaking at once. Thomas tried to burn the house down. The matches wouldn't light. He tried to smash the dolls. The hammer bounced off them. He tried to bury them. They were back in the living room the next morning, covered in dirt, angry. Jake disappeared on New Year's Eve. Thomas searched everywhere. He found him in the attic, but it wasn't Jake anymore. It was something else, something that looked like Jake but moved wrong. Talked wrong, its joints bent in impossible ways. Its smile was too wide, way too wide. "We don't need you anymore," Jake said, but it was all 17 voices speaking through him. "We have a new keeper now. Young blood, strong blood. You can go, but you can never speak of us. Never warn anyone, or we'll find you. We'll find everyone you love." Thomas ran. He left everything. He drives now, never stops for long, never makes friends, because sometimes he sees them in stores, in windows, in other people's houses. Dolls that look exactly like the 17. And he knows they're spreading, finding new families, new keepers, new food. He sent me this story before he disappeared. His final message said, "Check your house. Check your children's rooms. If you find an old doll, especially one that feels warm, get rid of it. Don't think. Don't hesitate. Burn it if you can. Run if you can't. They're not dolls. They're something ancient, something hungry, and they're looking for their next family. Maybe yours." I didn't believe him until yesterday. My daughter came home from a garage sale. She bought a doll, an old German doll with blonde braids. It feels warm, and last night I heard it walking in the hallway. Click, click, click. Story 7. The Dollhouse Murders. This is the story that still gives me nightmares. The story that made me quit my job as a crime scene investigator. The story the police don't want you to know about. It happened in 2021 in a wealthy neighborhood in Connecticut. The Blackwood family, parents and 3 kids, all found dead in their mansion. The news said it was carbon monoxide poisoning. That was a lie. A lie to prevent panic. The truth was much worse. It started when 8-year-old Emma Blackwood got a dollhouse for her birthday. Not just any dollhouse, a perfect replica of their own mansion. Every room, every piece of furniture, every tiny detail was exactly the same. It was custom made by an artist in Romania. Cost $30,000. The artist's name was Lucian Corvus. He was known for making the most realistic dollhouses in the world. But what the Blackwoods didn't know was that he was also known for something else. In certain dark circles, he was known as the Puppet Master. The dollhouse came with a family of dolls. 5 dolls that looked exactly like the Blackwood family. Mr. David Blackwood, the father. Mrs. Jennifer Blackwood, the mother. Emma, the 8-year-old. 10-year-old Michael. And 15-year-old Ashley. The dolls were so detailed that they even wore the same clothes the family wore the day the dollhouse arrived. How did the artists know what they would wear? Nobody asked that question. They should have. Emma loved the dollhouse. She played with it every day. She would move the dolls around, making them eat dinner, watch TV, go to sleep. Normal kid stuff. But then Jennifer noticed something strange. Whatever Emma did with the dolls, the family would do later. If Emma made the daddy doll sit in the living room, David would suddenly decide to go sit in the living room. If Emma made the mommy doll cook dinner, Jennifer would feel a sudden urge to cook. At first, it seemed like coincidence. Kids notice patterns that aren't there, right? But it kept happening, every single time. Emma would play out a scene, and hours later, the family would act it out in real life. Jennifer tried to test it. She watched Emma make the mommy doll go to the attic. Jennifer had no reason to go to the attic. She fought the urge. But the compulsion got stronger and stronger. Her head hurt. Her chest felt tight. She couldn't breathe. Finally, she gave in and went to the attic. The relief was immediate, Jennifer told David. He didn't believe her. He was a lawyer, a rational man. He didn't believe in supernatural nonsense. Until Emma made the daddy doll stand on one leg in the kitchen for 10 minutes, and David found himself doing exactly that. He tried to stop. He couldn't. His body wouldn't listen to his mind. He stood there on one leg until Emma moved the doll. They tried to take the dollhouse away. Emma had a complete meltdown, but not a normal kid tantrum. She screamed in a language they didn't understand. Her eyes rolled back. Objects flew around the room. The windows cracked. The dollhouse itself seemed to glow with a sick green light. They gave it back to her. They were scared of their own daughter. They called the artist, Lucian Corvus. The number was disconnected. They searched online. No artist by that name existed. The company that shipped the dollhouse had no record of the order. The charge on their credit card was from a company that didn't exist. It was like the dollhouse had appeared from nowhere. Things got worse. Emma stopped being Emma. She would sit in front of the dollhouse for hours. Not playing, just staring. Sometimes they heard her talking to the dolls. But it wasn't her voice. It was an old man's voice, speaking Romanian. When they asked her about it, she didn't remember. She didn't remember large chunks of time. Hours would pass and she would think only minutes had gone by. Michael and Ashley were affected too. They said the dolls were talking to them, telling them to do things, bad things. Michael started collecting dead birds, keeping them in his closet. Ashley started cutting herself. Not for emotional reasons. She said the dolls wanted to see blood. Wanted to taste it. David found something horrible. The doll's hair wasn't synthetic. It was real human hair. And when he looked closer, he found something else. Inside each doll's chest was a small glass vial. Inside the vials was blood. Fresh blood. still liquid despite the dolls being supposedly new. He took a sample to a friend who worked in a lab. The blood matched the Blackwood family. Each doll contained blood from the family member it represented. But how? When? They had never given blood samples. Then Jennifer remembered. 2 weeks before the dollhouse arrived, they had all gotten flu shots at a new clinic. The nurse had taken extra vials of blood, said it was for testing. They hadn't questioned it. The clinic was gone now. The building was empty. Had been empty for years, according to neighbors. They tried to leave the house. Take a vacation. Get away from the dollhouse. But when they got in the car, they couldn't drive away. It was like an invisible wall surrounded the property. They could move around inside the house and yard. But they couldn't leave. They were prisoners. The dolls started moving on their own at night. The family would wake up to find the dolls in different positions, acting out scenes. Terrible scenes. The daddy doll holding a knife. The mommy doll lying on the floor. The children dolls standing over her. And whatever the dolls did, the family felt compelled to do the next day. David found himself holding a knife, not knowing why. Jennifer would lie on the floor, unable to get up until someone moved her doll. They called the police. The officers came but couldn't see anything wrong. To them, it was just a normal dollhouse with normal dolls. The family sounded crazy. The police left. But one officer, Officer Martinez, felt something was off. He came back that night, off duty. He saw the dolls moving. He tried to help. They found his body 3 days later in his apartment. Heart attack, they said. But his partner told me the truth. Martinez's heart had been crushed, from the inside. Like a tiny hand had reached in and squeezed it until it burst. The end came on December 13th, a Friday. Emma had been playing with the dollhouse all day. But she wasn't playing normal games. She was conducting a ritual, moving the dolls in specific patterns, speaking in that old man's voice. The Romanian words were a summoning spell. She was bringing something through, using the dollhouse as a gateway. That night, the family gathered in the living room. Not by choice. The dolls were arranged that way, so they had to be there too. They sat in a circle, unable to move, unable to speak. Emma stood in the center with the dollhouse. But it wasn't Emma anymore. Her face was different, older, ancient, evil. She spoke in English finally, but it was Lucian Corvus speaking through her. He explained everything. He wasn't an artist. He was something much older, something that fed on families. He would create a dollhouse, bind a family to it, and slowly drain their life force, their souls. He had done it hundreds of times over hundreds of years. The dollhouses were his web. The families were his flies. But this time was special. The Blackwoods were the final family, the 100th family. With their deaths, he would have enough power to cross over fully, to leave his dying body in Romania and possess a new one, a young one. Emma's body, the ritual began. The dolls stood up in the dollhouse. The real family stood up too. The dolls walked to the tiny dining room. The family walked to their dining room. There were knives on the table. Real knives, sharp knives. The dolls picked them up. The family's hands moved to do the same, but Ashley fought back. She was the strongest, the oldest child. She had been secretly studying the dollhouse. She had found something, a maker's mark hidden under the dollhouse, a symbol. She had researched it, found a counterspell. As her hand reached for the knife, she spoke the words she had memorized. Ancient words, protection words. The dollhouse cracked. Just a small crack, but it was enough. The spell weakened. David could move his hand away from the knife. He grabbed the dollhouse. Lucian, speaking through Emma, screamed. David threw the dollhouse into the fireplace. The dolls started melting. But as they melted, the family felt themselves burning too, their skin blistering. The connection was too strong. They would die with the dolls. Unless... Jennifer grabbed Emma. Her real daughter was still in there. Somewhere. She called to her. Begged her to fight. For a moment, Emma's real voice broke through. Mommy? That moment of love, of connection, broke Lucian's hold. The dollhouse exploded in the fireplace. The dolls turned to ash. The family collapsed. But they were alive. They were free, or so they thought. They found the bodies the next morning. All 5 of them, dead in the dining room. The official cause was carbon monoxide poisoning from a faulty heater. But I was the investigator. I saw the scene. They didn't die from gas. They died from fear. Their faces were frozen in expressions of pure terror. And clutched in little Emma's hand was a small doll. A new doll, one that looked exactly like her. The house was cleared. The evidence was sealed. The case was closed. But I kept investigating. I found 17 other cases. All over the world, all in the last 10 years. Families found dead with dollhouses. All ruled accidents or natural causes. All covered up. I tried to find Lucian Corvus. I traced him to Romania, to a small village in the mountains. The locals wouldn't talk about him. They crossed themselves when I said his name. Finally, an old priest told me the truth. Lucian Corvus had died in 1824, but his spirit lived on, moving from body to body, using dollhouses as his tool. The priest showed me a book, a record of deaths, hundreds of families over 2 centuries, all connected to mysterious dollhouses. The priest gave me a warning. He said Lucian was still out there, still making dollhouses, still feeding. He said to watch for the signs. A dollhouse that appears from nowhere, dolls that look too real, and most importantly, the feeling of being watched, always watched. Because once you're in his web, there's no escape. I left that village and never looked back. But sometimes I check online auction sites. I look for dollhouses, expensive ones, custom-made ones, ones that look too perfect, too real. Last week I found one, a listing for a custom dollhouse in California. The seller's name was L. Corvus. The pictures showed a perfect replica of the buyer's home. And in the corner of one photo, barely visible, was a family of dolls. I tried to warn them, but the listing disappeared. The family's social media went dark. I called the police. They said the family was fine, just taking a vacation. But I know better. I know they're not on vacation. They're trapped, playing out whatever scenes those dolls dictate, until the final scene, the one that always ends the same way. These 7 stories I've shared with you today are all true. Every detail, every death, every possessed doll. I know because I've spent years investigating them, talking to survivors, reading police reports, studying the patterns. Dolls aren't just toys. Throughout history, in every culture, dolls have been used for dark purposes. Voodoo dolls to control people, effigies to curse enemies, vessels to trap spirits. We give them to our children. We let them into our homes. We don't realize what we're inviting in. If you have old dolls, especially antique ones, be careful. Watch for the signs. Do they feel warm? Do they move when you're not looking? Do your children talk to them for hours? Do you hear footsteps at night? Do you feel watched in your own home? If any of these things are happening, don't wait. Don't investigate. Don't try to be brave. Get out. Leave the dolls behind. Save your family. Because once a doll decides it wants more than to be a toy, once it decides it wants to be alive, to be real, to be you, it's already too late. Some of you won't believe these stories. You'll think they're just fiction, made up to scare you. That's fine. Stay skeptical. But tonight, when you're lying in bed, and you hear something in your child's room, something that sounds like tiny footsteps, something that sounds like whispering, remember these stories. Remember my warning. Because dolls don't need much. Just a little bit of belief, a little bit of fear, a little bit of blood, and then they're not dolls anymore. They're something else. Something that wears a familiar face. Something that knows your secrets. Something that wants what you have. Your home, your family, your life, your soul. Look around your house right now. Do you have dolls? Are you sure they're just dolls? Are you absolutely sure? Because somewhere, in someone's home, maybe yours, a doll is waiting, watching, planning. And tonight, when everyone's asleep, it's going to make its move. Sweet dreams, if you can sleep at all after hearing these stories. And remember that creaking sound you hear tonight? That shadow in the corner? That feeling of being watched? It's probably nothing. Probably. But maybe, just maybe, you should check on those dolls. Make sure they're exactly where you left them. Make sure they're still smiling the same smile. Make sure their eyes are still looking in the same direction. Because if they're not, well, you already know what happens next.